Peace, Israel. The title of this lesson is the Book of Remembrance. Once again, the title of this lesson is the Book of Remembrance. The Book of Remembrance is also called the Old Testament. I have a video up explaining or looking into the words new and the word testament. When you understand what a testament is or a testimony is, you clearly will understand that there can be no such thing as a New Testament, and there can be no such thing as an Old Testament. A testament is exactly what it is. It does not change. It doesn't become old. It doesn't become new. It simply is. Okay? It simply is what it is, to be frank with you. We'll start off our lessons as usual. Okay, Psalms 119, 142. Thy righteous is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. If you ever are concerned if something that's being told to you is true or false, simply put it up against the law or simply reference the law. Now, as we deal with the Book of Remembrance, if there has to be a Book of Remembrance, obviously someone had forgotten something. Okay, so the Book of Remembrance is to bring to remembrance or to jog the memory of those who have forgotten, those specifically of the house of Israel. All right, grab your books and we will start off with Malachi chapter 4. Definitely have your books. That way you can validate what's being said and you can see it with your own eyes and you don't have to tell anyone I heard. You know. Know is a short word for knowledge. Don't forget that. All right. Let's start this off. Malachi chapter 4, verse 16. We will read 16 through 18. Then they that feared Yah spake often one to another, and Yah hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yah and thought upon his name. So therefore, there would come a time where the house of Israel, after we've been scattered and our memories removed, names removed, heritage removed, knowledge removed, and we're in the ways of the heathen, that some of us would actually take it upon ourselves, if you will, or the Most High would put his spirit upon some of us, and we will actually think upon the name of the Most High. And for those individuals, that book of remembrance was written specifically for them. For those who were thought upon the name of the Most High Yah and to try to seek of his ways. And this is the purpose of the book of remembrance. Verse 17, and they shall be mine, saith Yah of hosts, in the day when I will make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth Yah and him that serveth him not. So, out of this book of remembrance, we're going to be able to jog our memory. We're going to be able to identify who we are, where we're from, and what has happened to us. And we will be able to see our seeds. We'll be able to link up our heritage. Isaiah chapter 53. Okay? With this also, we will not gain this knowledge and we will not gain this understanding unless we have returned to this law. And therefore, by returning to the law, we now can determine exactly who is serving Yah. Because if you're serving the Yah, you're keeping the Sabbath, and there are things that you're doing in this law that the average person is not doing. And so you will be able to discern, to make a difference between what's holy and what's profane. You'll be able to look at someone and the things that they do and know if they're following Yah and if they're not. If they're in idolatry, you will be able to know this. So you will know what's right and wrong, what's perverse, what's holy and profane, because you will have returned to this law. So that's how you're going to be able to discern. Okay, so that was the purpose of the book of remembrance, was to bring Israel to exactly that, remembrance. because there can be no such thing as an Old or a New Testament. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30, and we will start with verse 1 through 3. Deuteronomy 30. All right. Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. And it reads, And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind. Meaning you will be brought to remembrance. Okay, you're going to be called to remember these things. Hence the book of remembrance, as we just discussed in Malachi 4. And you will call them to mind among all the nations. So we're going to be in these nations after we've been scattered and stripped. And then we're going to start calling all these things to mind. The Most High will put His Spirit upon us and bring us to remembrance. All right, let's go ahead and start this again. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yah, thy strong one, has driven thee. Verse 2. And shall return unto Yah, thy strong one. You shall return by obeying His laws. And shall obey His voice, according to all that I have commanded thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. Verse 3. That then, after we have returned to His laws, Yah thy strong one will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yah has scattered thee. So, there is no returning to get us until we have returned to this law. It is simple as that. So as we start calling these things to mind and we go into the book of remembrance, we can identify who we are. Deuteronomy 28 states clearly all the curses that were placed upon the house of Israel. By going into the book of remembrance, and we read those curses, and we look towards ourselves, our people, and our plight, we see clearly that these curses are upon us, and only us. Therefore, we're able to identify ourselves clearly that we are the house of Israel. And so we can bear witness that the Most High is exactly who He says He is, because His testimony, His law, He tells us clearly, these are my laws. You don't do them, I'm going to do this. And Israel, you are my witness. Matter of fact, the heavens and the earth, the mountains and everything on the earth, the Most High has called witness against the house of Israel. So therefore, we see these curses upon our people. So we know clearly, okay, this is us. And now we go into this book. We see the curses and we see what the blessings were. We see what the curses are. And we see them upon our people. So now it validates that the Most High is exactly who He says He is, because we would bear witness to His testimony that He was going to do what He's doing to us. So now we have confirmation of exactly who He is, because we're bearing witness to His testimony. If that makes any sense to you. Okay? So, He will not return and gather us until we have returned to His law. So, you lawless individuals and you idolaters will never set foot on the land of Israel. It's not going to happen. Okay? Now, let's go to Hosea chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Hosea chapter 6. Hosea chapter 6, and we'll read verse 1 and 2. Come, and let us return unto Yah, for He has torn, and He will heal us. He has smitten, and He will bind us up. Verse 2. After 2 days will He revive us. In the third day He will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. He will raise us up on the third day. Does that sound like something familiar? That sounds like the JC story, doesn't it? Well, the he is going to raise us up. He's going to raise us, the house of Israel, up. In the third day, we will live in his sight. Okay? We shall live in his sight in Jerusalem. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So he has smitten us because of our transgression. He will also bind us up. And in 2 days, he will raise us up. The third day, we will live in his sight. These days are akin to 1,000 years. So that you're familiar with that. All right, let's go to Proverbs. So before we go to Proverbs, chapter 6, come and let us return unto Yah. The way for us to return unto him is to turn back from idolatry, to turn back from iniquity, to turn back from darkness, to turn back from sin. So when you read come and let us return, that means come let us return to his laws. Because the law is truth. The law is righteousness. They are synonymous. So there's no such thing as you saying you know God or you know Yah and you don't know these laws. Because the laws are forever. They are perpetual. They do not change. But guess what? The Most High, he too is perpetual. He is forever, and the laws do not change. You want to know him, you have to know his laws. Those are his protocols. So there's no such thing as you knowing the Most High, you don't know his laws. His laws are a direct written form of him. That's what those laws are. Those laws are his testimony. That's him saying, this is who I am in written form. And if you want to know me, get to know these laws. Get to obeying these laws is the only way to come under his protection. So keep that in mind when you're saying that you know God and you don't follow any laws. You don't keep the Sabbath. You don't do anything. But yet you know God. Well, surprise. He clearly says he doesn't know you. You don't keep his laws. You're a prayer abomination. If you don't even want to hear his laws. So watch what you're saying, because most of it is being said in ignorance because you haven't taken the time to study this book. Now let's go to Proverbs 6:23. We're gonna take a couple of verses out of Proverbs. Let's go to 6:23. Proverbs 6, verse 23. And it reads, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and a reproof of instructions are the way of life. Reproof of instruction. The law. The law is a lamp. We know a lamp illuminates. It causes one to see in darkness. And the law is the light. So therefore, as it was written that Israel will stumble at noonday and grope at noonday as the dark at night. And you've also should know that the earth is in gross darkness. The reason that we are in darkness, Israel, and the earth is in darkness as a whole, because we are maneuvering without this lamp. Those are the commandments. And these laws are the light. So when you have removed yourself from the commandments of the Most High, you have no lamp. When you remove yourself from the law of the Most High, you have no light. Therefore, you will fall victim to traps and snares because you don't know where you're going. So let that be clear unto you. Now, let's go to Proverbs 9, verse 10. Proverbs 9, verse 10. And it reads, the fear of Yah, or God, is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. So, If you fear the Most High, you keep his laws. That's number one. Secondly, the knowledge and wisdom of the Most Holy will not come unto you or be given to you or be shown to you unless you're in adherence to this law. Excuse me. So there's no such thing as a lawless individual with knowledge of the Most High. It doesn't exist. Okay, so when you fear the Most High, you're keeping his commandments, and thus this book is no longer sealed to you. You will read it and have a very good understanding of what it is you need to do and exactly who he is. But unless you're following these laws, that's not coming to you. So do understand that the fear of Yah is the beginning of wisdom. So if you don't fear him, wisdom is not coming your way. So let that be clear to you. Now, let's change over to 1 second. Let's go to Proverbs 13, chapter 13, verse 13. Still in Proverbs. Proverbs 13, chapter 13, verse 13. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. So therefore, if you hate these laws, you don't want to keep them because you want to do what you want to do, you're going to be destroyed. So you know. But he that feareth the commandment, the law, statutes, and judgments, you shall be rewarded. So there's no reward for lawlessness. Let that be clear to you. Now, let's go to Proverbs 21, verse 16. Proverbs 21, verse 16. And it reads, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. The way of understanding is adherence to the laws, statutes, and judgments of the Most High. If you wander away from that, or you should stray to the right or to the left of that, you are in the congregation of the dead. Because if you do not follow these laws, whosoever does not follow them and despise them, you're going to be killed. Destroyed. That's a cute word for killed. So keep that in mind. Okay, you wander out of the way of this path, not path, that's going all sorts of ways. Path, this law, this light. You stray from it, you will be destroyed. Let that be clear to you. Next, let's look at Proverbs 28. Proverbs 28, verse 4. Proverbs 28, verse 4. And it reads, they that forsake the law, that throws the law behind their back, could care less about it, praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. I'll read that again. Proverbs 28, chapter 28, verse 4. They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. If you don't keep the law, you forsake it, you throw it behind your back, you and the wicked are in agreement. You praise them. But those of us who keep the law, we are knowledgeable enough because of our wisdom that's been given to us by the Most High, we can contend with the wicked. Because we have the ability to discern, Malachi 4, 16 through 18, we have the ability to discern who is serving the Most High and who's serving him not. Because we adhere to these laws. So we can contend with the wicked because the wisdom has been given to us to do so. Now, let's go to verse 9 of the same chapter, Proverbs 28, verse 9. And read this carefully, those of you who are serving this JC idol in all these nations and any other idol that you have, including money. He that turneth his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. So if you're thinking someone came and died for you, and thus you no longer need to follow the law, you don't need to keep Shabbat, you don't need to do any law, etc., etc., your prayer is abomination. Most High is not listening to anything you've got to say. Okay? So you turn your ear away from this law. And secondly, if you hear it and don't do it, same thing. Okay? So once this knowledge has been given to you, it is your duty to do what's right, or you will certainly pay for it. Okay? So he that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. All right. Let's go to Proverbs 29, verse 18. Proverbs 29, verse 18. And it reads, where there is no vision, remember, you can't see. If this room that I'm in right now became pitch black, it would be no different than if I was blind. I wouldn't be able to see. I would have no vision, though my eyes are open. Okay? So, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So therefore, there is strife and affliction where there is no vision. There's strife and affliction where there is no law. So the people that do not have the ability to see, i.e. the house of Israel, we can't see because we are in wickedness, sinfulness, therefore we perish. All right, now let's go to Isaiah. We're going to go to Isaiah 6, chapter 6, and we'll read verse 9 and 10. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 and 10. And it reads at verse 9 of Isaiah chapter 6. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Verse 10. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and convert, and be healed. So, this is where Israel has been made dumb. Can't see anything, can't hear anything. And when you hear it, it makes no sense to you. And when you see it, you still reject it. Okay, because your heart has been made fat. How? Through these idols. Okay? So we've got to turn away from idolatry, return to these laws. That way you can finally see what has happened to you. Look in this law, read it, see it, and most definitely understand it. But right now, that's not going to happen because you're in idolatry. So keep that in mind. We've read 10. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 29. Let's go back to Deuteronomy. We're going to be flipping back and forth, but it all ties together. Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy chapter 29, and we'll go to verse 4. And it reads, yet Yah hath not given you a heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear unto this day. So this is Moses telling the house of Israel that the Most High had not given them the ability to perceive had not given them the ability to see and understand. Though they saw all of the miracles that the Most High did for them against the house of Pharaoh, and all the miracles and wonders he did for them in the wilderness, they still could not perceive it. They still could not see it. They still could not understand it because their hearts were still set on those idols of Egypt. Okay, so they really couldn't see, perceive, or understand anything. Though the Most High spoke to these Israelites and they heard his voice. They saw all the things that was done, all the wonders that Moses did through the Most High, or the Most High did through Moses. They saw these things. They bore witness to it, but yet they could not understand. Okay? Now, let's go to, we've done Deuteronomy 4. Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 12, and we're going to deal with verse 1 and verse 2. Ezekiel chapter 12. And make sure you're reading along with this. That way you're not saying, I heard this, I heard that. My grandma told me this and that. I've read it for myself. I've taken the time to study it, to discern and return to the laws. Now, let's go to Ezekiel, like I said, chapter 12. One more. Ezekiel chapter 12, and we'll read verse 1 and verse 2. Verse 1 reads of Ezekiel chapter 12. The word of Yah also came unto me, saying, Son of man, thou dwellest in the midst of a rebellious house, which have eyes to see and see not. They have ears to hear and hear not, for they are a rebellious house. So, this is your God, Israel, letting you know exactly what you are. You're rebellious. You want to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You want to marry who you want, work where you want, eat what you want, wear what you want, lay down in the bed with who you want, that sort of thing. That's lawlessness. And since you are lawless and will not adhere to the Most High's law, hence, you've been made dumb. You can't see and you can't hear anything because of your rebellion. Isaiah 29, verse 10. Isaiah 29, verse 10, we will read verse 10 through 13. And it reads, For Yah has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and has closed your eyes. The prophets and the rulers, the seers have he covered. And the vision of all is become unto us as the word of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. Let me reread that. We're in Isaiah chapter 29, verse 10. For Yah has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep. In other words, you're unconscious, Israel. And has closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers who are prophets of old time, has he covered. Okay? So he's covered you with darkness. Okay? The vision of all is become unto you as the word of a book that is sealed. In other words, when wisdom is given unto you, you can't perceive it, you can't understand it. Which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. So you can give a man with a bachelor's degree and all the other degrees and tell him to read this book. He can't understand it. It's sealed to him. Okay, it's sealed to him. It's like a big old puzzle. He can't unfurl it. All right. Verse 12. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. So You're seeing here where all of this kind of coincides, where Israel was literally stripped. They were stripped of their knowledge. They were stripped of their wisdom. We were stripped of our understanding. We were not able to see, not able to perceive, not able to understand, because we have fallen off of the path. Okay? We had become rebellious. Now, let's jump to Isaiah 29. We can go to Isaiah 29, verse 24. So we're just going to skip over a couple of verses. Verse 24, and it reads, They also that erred in spirit shall come to understanding, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. This is only happening to they, or those of the house of Israel, that had turned back, that had returned to the laws. So once you decide you're not going to follow these idols of the enemies, of your enemies in these nations where we have been scattered, and you decide to turn back and to return to the laws, then will you be able to discern, okay? Then will your spirit come to understanding, and then you will learn doctrine, okay? Now, if we look down directly at the start of chapter 30, we look directly at chapter 30, and it reads, chapter 30 of Isaiah, verse 1, Woe to the rebellious children, saith Yah, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. So we are multiplying our transgressions when we do not seek Yah first. We seek coverings of all types. Okay? We are marching. We're going to the courthouses. We're complaining to the NAACP and all this other foolishness. We're getting guns trying to protect ourselves. This is not the covering of the Most High Yah. And so we're adding sin to sin. We're to put nothing before Him. And we're to put our trust in Him. But you first have to know Him. And that can be done only one way, by returning to the laws. Okay? So we need to stop being so rebellious in going to these laws. Read them. Okay? That way you can increase your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding, and you return to them. Okay? Because that is the only way to save yourself. Can't no man die for you and save you from your sins. It's against the laws of Yah. Okay? Now, let's go to Hosea chapter 4, and we'll read verse 6. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. And it reads, My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, the laws. That's where you get your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, from those laws, from that lamp, that light that we discussed earlier. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Israel is supposed to be the priest to all the nations of the earth. Now, we have specific priests, the Levites, but the nation as a whole of Israel are to be priests to all these other nations. So the Most High is saying, since we have rejected Him, we have rejected knowledge, that's why we suffer. Since we have rejected His laws, we suffer. And since we rejected Him, because He is the laws are a direct representation of Him. So if we reject the laws, it's the same as rejecting Him. So therefore He said He would reject us and our children. So let me reread that again. We're at Hosea chapter 6, and we're at, Hosea chapter 4, and we're in verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, thy strong one, I will also forget thy children. So since our forefathers did not adhere to the law, because that is our knowledge and that is our wisdom to the nations, he has forgotten the children of our forefathers. That's us. So here we are sitting in these nations, getting shot, killed, can't find justice, and we are deaf, dumb, and blind, that we continue to seek a way out using the methods of our enemies. We're seeking a covering that's not of Yah. And thus we're adding sin to sin. Because marching doesn't get us out of this at all. Protest doesn't get us out of this at all. And education doesn't get us out of this at all. And that's going to be made to you, made clear to you and everyone else, that these methods don't work if you haven't figured it out already. All right, let's go to Jeremiah 17. Jeremiah chapter 17. Jeremiah chapter 17, and we will deal with verse 4. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. And it reads, And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. So the Most High is saying that we, the house of Israel, will be discontinued from our heritage that he gave us. We will be cut off. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So therefore, since we decided we don't want to follow these laws, what he has done, he has cut us off from our inheritance. We have been cut off because, we have kindled a fire. He became jealous because we decided we want to serve the gods of our enemies. So therefore, what he did is, you want to serve them, I turn you over to them. And thus, our heritage has been discontinued. So here we are in the land of our enemies. And he's now beginning to wake us up. Ezekiel 37. Because we're returning to these laws. Because some of us are tired of this thing. We're tired of seeing the injustice and the oppression of our people. And we have the wisdom that's been given to us by the Most High, once we return to the laws, to where we understand clearly what the solution is. All right, let's go Deuteronomy 28. We're almost finished. Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to go to verse 29. Now, Deuteronomy 28 clearly lets you know this is the list of all the curses that was placed upon the house of Israel. So if you're ever curious as to who is the house of Israel, who are these people, what you do, you go to Deuteronomy 28 chapter, you read all those curses, then you look around in your area and look throughout the earth and see who matches up with these curses. And it's us. All right. Now we go to Deuteronomy 28 and we're going to go to verse 29. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 29. And it reads, And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. We're going to grope at noonday. At noon, we know it's bright outside. To grope is to feel one's way around. That's what blind people do. They have no idea where they're going. They trip over things. Okay? And if you're groping, you can't prosper. Because you can only move at a certain speed. A blind man can't run a 100-yard dash. Okay, he doesn't know where he's going. So therefore, you're going to be moving slow. There's no vision. Because there's no lamp. There's no lamp means there's no law. So therefore, you can't prosper. All right? So that's something to consider. And once again, you can reference Proverbs 6:23 explaining that the law is the light and that commandment is the lamp. Okay? Isaiah 59:10. Let's go back to the groping so you can see exactly what has happened to our people. Back to Isaiah. Isaiah 59 verse 10. We're almost completed. Almost complete. Isaiah 59 and verse 10. And it reads, "We grope for the wall like the blind, and we grope as if we had no eyes. We stumble at noonday as in the night. We are in desolate places as dead men." All right. Desolate. A desolate place is a dry, parched place. A place where there is no joy, no prosperity, and certainly no water. All right? So that's what parched means. And I'm certain you know this. So we grope for the wall. A blind man likes to hold on to a wall like he kind of guide his way down in a straight line, if you will. Okay? We grope as if we had no eyes, but we do have eyes, and we can see. But we can't see this because we don't follow the law. So we stumble at noonday. We've already discussed this. We are in desolate places, and we are. All right, we're in places where we do not prosper. So be mindful of that. Let's go to Isaiah 47, verse 6, and then we will finish it up. Isaiah 47. Isaiah 47, and we will read verse 6. And then I'll summarize everything. Isaiah 47, verse 6. And it reads, "I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance, and given them into the land, into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke." So the Most High is saying here that he was angry with his people, and he polluted his own heritage. The heritage of the Most High is the house of Israel, his son. And we were shown no mercy by our enemies. They laid a heavy yoke upon us because we are the ancient peoples. That's pretty much what this is saying here. The yoke was laid heavily upon the ancients. That's us. We are the ancient people of the earth. All right? And so the Most High polluted his heritage. That's why when we return to the land, those of us who are fortunate enough have returned to the laws, obey them, and we are able to set foot back in that land again to build that third temple, he will have to cleanse our blood. He will have to cleanse us entirely. We will have a new heart, a new spirit, a new name, and a new language, because we have been polluted in the midst of the heathens, the midst of the nations. We have been polluted in the midst of them. So therefore, when we return unto him, he's got to clean us of this mess. And we cannot be returned to the Most High. The first thing we have to do is to separate ourselves from the heathens that's among us, and those that will not return to the law. And those include some Israelites who will not return to this law. So there will be a great separation, a separation between those who are following the Most High and those who will not adhere to his laws. You can have those heathens, people of the other nations, who will submit to the house of Israel and will obey the laws of the Most High. And those people will be saved. And there will be those of the house of Israel who will side with their enemies, will not adhere to the laws of Yah. He's going to kill them all the same. So keep that in mind. Now let's summarize this whole thing as it pertains to the Book of Remembrance. We have gone through where we see clearly the curses were laid upon the house of Israel. We see clearly where the house of Israel was made blind and deaf to where we would not perceive and understand this book. As we read it, it will be sealed unto us. Excuse me. We also have read where the Most High has polluted his heritage. So our memories were removed through slavery and dispersion throughout the nations. Our names were removed. That was important because your name identifies you as your landmass. Names removed, heritage removed, language removed, memories removed. We've been wiped clean, pretty much. We've been stripped. So now we are stripped in all these many lands, but there are those of us who thought upon the name of Yah and wanted to seek him out. And thus, we can find him in this law. And by reading this law and adhering to it, now he has increased our wisdom. He has increased our knowledge and our understanding of him and of us and what has happened to us. So now we are armed with the information to know exactly who is serving Yah and who is not. Hence, the Book of Remembrance was written. So when you hear Old Testament, there is no such thing. When you hear New Testament, there's no such thing. That's just false. But the Book of Remembrance was for the house of Israel in that time when the Most High would wake them up to those who would call upon his name. And you can read Ezekiel 37, the Valley of the Dry Bones. So, let's wrap this up. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, and we will deal with verse 13 and verse 14. All right, Ecclesiastes chapter 12. This is the last two verses. Last three, actually. We're going to read, last two. We're going to read verse 13 and verse 14. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And it reads, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." That's all men, regardless of your nation. Okay? "For Yah shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil." So whatever it is you have done, you will be brought into judgment for it. And you're not being judged after you're dead, because a dead man can't feel punishment. Your judgment is brought unto you while you are alive and well. That way you can feel it and see it and know that it's Yah doing it. That's how we bear witness that he is who he is. All right, Israel, once again, we'll finish up this lesson. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. The law is the truth. The law is righteousness. The law is forever. The law is a direct representation of the Most High himself. You cannot say you know the Most High and you don't know these laws. Can't say you know the Most High and you don't keep his laws. Peace, Israel.